There we go.
All right. Welcome to the distribution demo for not October, November 18th, 2021. Today I'll be demoing the recent changes we've been doing, or I've been doing for adapting the GitLab chart to use the new nginx-ingress controller. This will enable us to be able to deploy to Kubernetes version 1.22 and beyond. Quite simply, because we forked the chart, this was a little bit more involved. Otherwise, we'd just be able to do an update to the requirements and allow us to bring in the new chart. Let me go ahead and get it starting to kick off, and we can talk a little bit more about some of the changes. First of all, do I have the namespace? Yes, good. It looks like I'm connected to it. Okay.
Gerard, could you bump up the type size just
Yep.
a hair?
Not a problem. I meant to ask
Thank
about
you.
that before I get started.
That's good. Thank you.
Right. Yep. All right. So that's going to take about 2 minutes to install and get going. All right. So when I first started doing this, one of the first things I did was started to bring in the new chart. And for reasons I still cannot explain at this moment, there was a number of Helm checks that were failing, specifically anything. Let me find one here. Anything that was using the API version from Helm, specifically if you checked against anything with the resource name, was failing. And that was first evident because all my ingresses were being created as extensions v1 beta 1, which under 122 doesn't work. I spent a bunch of time debugging that, finally figuring out what it was. I taken the resource off, fixed that, and then actually earlier this week did some more testing, and it's now working again. So I have no explanation as to why that happened, but it's something we should at least keep an eye on. If anybody else experienced, maybe we can figure out exactly what's causing that. But that threw me for quite a while. Now, another thing that caught me for a little bit is specifically under 1.20 and 1.21. It is the new ingress controller does not allow both the ingress class name and the class name attribute, an annotation that exists in the ingress. If it does, it invalidates the ingress and will never process that ingress. So there's a bunch of pieces, and actually I just brought it in as a defined last night or yesterday. This right here. If we're using the ingress class resource, then we go ahead and do not deploy with the annotation. So any of the newer versions of Kubernetes that does support the ingress class, we're going to favor that because that is actually what's becoming the standard, what's going to be deployed. The ingress annotation, ingress class annotation will be actually deprecated. And actually, I think it is now in 122 actually deprecated, but it will disappear in, I think, 1.25. So now we've actually deployed, so we are actually up and running at this point. So All right, so we're still coming up here. If we take a look at our ingresses, we see that we have our standard 4 ingresses. We do not have the ingress class annotation. And now we do have in the spec section this ingress class name. So we're still using the same class name that we were using before. It's just now in a different spot. And there's now an ingress class being created. Actually, this is still adding the parameters, but my understanding is, I think I still have that in my values file, but my understanding is from what I've read, the nginx ingress controller does not use the parameter section at all at this point. It's basically completely ignored. The only thing that's used in the spec section is the controller to identify which instance of the nginx-ingress is going to be used. Or more specifically, it's an nginx-ingress because you may have multiple ingress controllers deployed in your cluster. All right.
Basically, there's an ingress that specifies an ingress class name that refers to an ingress class object, and that ingress class object refers to a controller, and that controller was started up with the flag controller name is k8s.io/ingress nginx. Is that the right flow?
If I understand what you just said, yes. The ingress class resource, or the ingress class resource here that we're looking at actually is generated by the nginx ingress controller, by that template. And so really, this is really just tying the specific controller, in this case, the one that was created, to the class by this name. So the name of the ingress class is what is that tie-in record between the class name and which controller to use.
So could you real quickly pop into the deployment YAML for the nginx ingress controller?
Sure.
And then the args for the main container or command. Yeah, so controller
Yes.
class, that flag there, yeah. So that's
Yep.
where the connection is. Cool.
Correct.
Thank
Correct.
you.
Yep. All right, by this time we should have everything up and running. Oh, why are we crashing here? Oops. So laptop keyboards have a few more keys. Page up, page down, make it easier.
You can do a capital G, like Vim commands. It'll jump to the bottom.
Oh, will it?
Lowercase gg to go to the
Oh,
top. Yeah.
excellent. All right. We pulled the image. It's crashing. We only have the 1 and 2 at the moment too. That's interesting. Okay. Ah. That's interesting. I saw this a little bit.
Might have had a PV laying around from a previous installation.
It's quite possible, and I didn't recreate this cluster this morning. So I probably should have. Okay.
Could just delete the namespace. Reinstall.
Yeah, we can try that real quick. I've had a lot of problems sometimes because of the cert manager where namespaces take 20 or 30 minutes to go away, but let's give it a try.
You could just delete the PVCs then. And that way it'll keep the secrets in there for cert manager. I think that error only popped up because you had a database from before and then did a new installation. You probably still have to uninstall the Helm chart, but
right.
keep the namespace and the secrets there, so
Cert
manager doesn't have to regenerate them.
Okay, let's start with. Oh, another thing to be wary of, bringing the new ingress controller into Kubernetes is going to basically only allow us to deploy back to 1.19, Kubernetes 1.19. Anything prior to that will not work unless we go back to the old ingress controller.
Yeah, it's a pretty big jump.
Yep. So you think if I just get rid of the PVCs, we'll be back to semi-normal?
Yeah, I think what happened is you had an old database there, and then with the new Helm chart release, it probably generated a new initial root password secret, and of course
then
those don't
wasn't
match.
able to authenticate. Yeah.
So I'll just delete those 3 PVCs and then reinstall the Helm chart.
Okay. So yeah, I've got some documentation I'll be finishing up today, specifically about the new ingress controller and the jump to 119. And then at that point, I think I'm ready to take this MR out of draft mode and move forward with it.
The perk of jumping to 119 too is that, if I remember correctly, 119 has Ingress API v1. And so we wouldn't actually need to do any juggling of Ingress API versions, either in the Helm chart or in the operator, which would actually make things much simpler. We could just always pick that one Ingress version.
Yep.
Which would be pretty nice. So that said, of course, the new required minimum version is a pretty big jump. So I think we'd probably need to do an announcement before making that change.
Yep. Yeah. So I was hoping that this would all be tied up a little bit ago. I had a few other problems pop up that was ugly, but so it won't be for this release, but next release. So we'll have to start prepping now to get that notice out. But I'm wondering if that's the case, do we even really need to do this function anymore once we make the jump? I mean, because we won't be able to deploy to extensions v1 beta 1. And effectively, this is gone too now.
So we will not be able to deploy our nginx to that, but it's possible to remove the nginx component and install into a different version.
That's true. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Good point. All right.
I don't see the migrations pod.
This one here that's running.
Oh yeah, okay. Never mind.
Yep.
The
Looks like it's
jobs are
had a
oddly
restart.
named.
It is oddly named.
Yeah.
I'm
it
sorry.
looks like
Go ahead.
it is yeah, no, you're right. That is weird. Hmm. Buckets and issuer have the same. Looks like there's something that should have been injected in there and wasn't.
Hmm.
I find it really weird that the annotation didn't work with the ingress class name because all the API docs say that the annotation still gets priority. I just found that
Yeah.
so weird.
That took me a little bit. It took some digging and finally found some GitHub issues that specifically called out that in versions 1.20 and 1.21 that the ingress class name annotation and the ingress class name attribute or resource, whatever you want to call it, could not coexist. There was something that prevented that. Sounds like it would work in 119, but not in anything beyond that. I didn't actually go into, I should have, but it's not worth my time. I didn't actually test that in 122 either. Could be that in 122, it's the same as, I would expect it to be the same as 121, actually. So I can't say if it is or is not the case.
Yeah, because those generated API docs for 120 and 122 explicitly say that they work together. So do you remember if the ingress was created or if the API server rejected it?
It was created. If you looked at the ingress controller log output, it would come back saying, basically saying invalid ingress, ignoring it.
So it was nginx probably had a bug.
Yeah.
Because the API server accepted it with those.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Certainly the Kubernetes, the API server was handling it just fine. It was the controller that
bug.
would ignore it. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Finally getting something further along. That completed. We're up and running, only with one though. And I did not invoke my debug, so I should actually have 2 pods there. That's interesting. It's shown on 1. I do not know why that is, but
Can you check the logs quick?
of which one? Of which pod?
Either one.
Either one of what?
Then, oh, there goes web service. It finally came up. Okay.
Okay. All right. Let me get another window here. Get over. So we connect up. Helps if you can type correctly or spell. All right. And let's a quick SSH key. Boom. Ah, sorry. Wrong way. And that looks good. Okay. I was going back and forth among several different clusters the other day with different configurations and was getting the wrong URL to wrong git clone URL to. All right, so there. We have done a checkout. I could actually do a quick edit and push it too. So boom, now we know the SSH is working. And so the ingress from everything I can tell is working fine. The only thing I didn't test, which is what something I was just thinking of a little while ago, is if I change the port of SSH, does that actually, and I don't expect it'll have a problem with it. I probably want to test that a little bit later on here and just verify that we don't have any inconsistencies and the nginx controller comes up but does not map to the new SSH port. So that's about the only other thing I could see that might be an issue at this point. Anybody get any other thoughts or any other questions? Something they want to see? And hearing none.
Yeah, silence is golden, I think, on this.
Yep.
Seems to work.
And we're at time now too, so. All right, well, that's what I've got. And we'll get this updated with the documentation updates and pushed out later today so that people can look at it a little bit closer and see if there's anything else that I'm missing.
Sounds good. Thanks, Gerard.
All right, have a great day,
Thanks, Greg.
everybody. Bye-bye.